Well, now we know. Russell has not really been. He hasn't been that guy. Okay, we don't talk about him like that. As that, he's not that. Oh, we don't talk about him as an MVP candidate. No, we don't.
And Russell Wilson, from a numbers perspective, I believe is a top 6 in essentially every category right now. He's actually playing really good football.
You want to talk to me about Russell's stats?
You brought it
Russell's
up.
never a stat guy. I want to talk about his stats. The only stat that matters for me with quarterbacks is, did you win or not?
So it's been easy to make Russell Wilson the villain this season, but numbers don't lie. He has not had a bad year. He just hasn't had a team that showed up around him. I think there's some apologies that need to be thrown to Russell Wilson. I'm not saying by you.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, no, I'm not going to wait a minute.
Second.
I'm serious.
You Russell people. I'll tell you, you Russell people. I'm going to make a deal with you. You want to make a deal? Let's make a deal. I will give Russ his praise, everything, and apologies when they go over 500. Because your job, Russ, is not to compile stats. Your job is to find a way. 6-5. If they're 6-5, I will just gush about Russ, and I'll even say, let's ride. He's my favorite quarterback in football. He's my favorite quarterback, Russell Wilson. I love you, Russell Wilson. I apologize to you for doubting your ability to lead the Denver Broncos to championships, to a winning record by passing consistently for over 200 yards. Oh, except you didn't do that. For being the reason. That's a jacked up apology right there. Let me take it.
Very shady.
Take 2.
Right.
Russell.
Very shady.
I'm sorry if you were offended by the truth I told. No, that's not good either. Russell, good job being 6-5. Good job being 6-5, because that's the reason they brought you to Denver, to be 6-5, and then on the edge of wild card playoff contention, and about 2 or 3 games behind the Kansas City Chiefs. No, that doesn't work either. Russell, I'm sorry. You've done a good job.
You suck at
Turn
apologies. Let's just call it what it is.
How's that, Liv? Hey, Liv, I apologize.
Suck at apologies.
They're 6-5. They've done a good job. And in all seriousness, Liv, I got to give it up. Because in September, especially after that 70-point beatdown, that they gave up 70 points, and they didn't lose by 70, but they gave up 70 points to the Miami Dolphins. I thought Russ would be on the bench. I thought Sean Payton was going back to broadcasting.
Russ didn't give up 70 points. Russ didn't give up 70 points.
I know he did.
I know the Vance Joseph-led defense right there.
I just thought he would be an unintended consequence. Okay? That he might be on the bench. That Vance Joseph might be looking for work elsewhere. And I'm not the only one who said that now. You Coloradans.
As a Broncos fan, I said it. Yeah, that defense was embarrassing. I got you there. I'm with you there.
And I thought Sean Payton was going back to Fox or going back to broadcasting or something, because he looked like that he wasn't quite the guy. He wasn't quite the guy for the moment. And look, they got a shot. Liv and Rita, they have a shot now. They have dug themselves out of the hole. And you know what happens? You spend a lot of energy getting yourself out of that hole, and now you've raised expectations again. In a few of their games down the stretch, they're not going to be here come the Broncos, can they do it? They're going to be expected. They're going to be expected to win these games. And the question now is, can you survive? Can you deliver as a favorite, not necessarily as an underdog? So it really has come back to Broncos as favorite, not the favorite, but a favorite when you look at their schedule. Liv and Rita, can the Broncos get the job done now with 6 games to go, and in at least half of those games, if not more, they're going to be expected to win?
Take it away, Rita.
No, okay, well, yes, I'm going to say yes. And so a couple of things. First of all, I tried to tell you in October. I told you 2 months ago almost that man was not part of the problem, okay? And you just sidestepped me, and I told you what it was. that is not the issue. The issue was, first and foremost, Rome can't be built in a day, okay? And what happens is sometimes it takes a while for things to be adjusted. Vance Joseph came in as a defensive coordinator this year. Yes, it got a little rusty, but as of recent weeks, he's done a phenomenal job, and I think that we have to applaud that. I have to even apologize to Vance Joseph because I said a lot of bad things about that man in social media lane, and he has done a phenomenal job. Essentially, there's no way to go but up from that Dolphins game, right? But he's always had the talent. It's always been there. And now he's doing what we thought that he would do. Sean Payton as well. You know, I think that we thought because of his namesake, he was going to come in here and automatically implement the system, and the Broncos were just going to be what we thought that they would be. And it just doesn't work that way. It takes weeks. It takes time. And now this is what we're seeing now is what we thought that the Broncos would be. But unfortunately for them, they just had a really slow start. Now they're going to need some help, obviously, in terms of trying to get a spot, but I don't think that it's out of the realm that they find a way to get into the playoff picture, which is going to be really interesting because being from 1-5 to beating, and I believe every team that they've beaten, and correct me if I'm wrong, Liv, has been over 500. That's huge. And it says a lot for what they have to do down the stretch. And if they're able to beat teams that are over 500, that they have a really good chance of making these playoffs.
I agree. And you know what? I'm gonna counter one thing you said. I agree with you wholeheartedly in just about everything, but I'm actually not gonna apologize to Vance Joseph because at the end of the day, at the highest level, we're talking the highest level of football. There should never be a circumstance or situation where a defense that last season was a top 10 defense should be allowed to give up 70 points in an NFL game. This is not high school football. This is not Pee Wee, YMCA, middle school, summer camp football. This is the National Football League. So I see a lot of people going, you know, rightfully so. There are some apologies that need to be made to Russ. Absolutely. But at the same time, I'm a Broncos fan, born and raised. We should have been frustrated. We gave up so much for Russell Wilson and Sean Payton, and to start a season 1-5. Yeah, we were pissed off, and I'm not going to take any of that back because it was a frustrating process as a fan to watch the talent that this roster had. And I'm going to tell you right now, it wasn't a lack of talent. We're clearly seeing it was never a lack of talent. It was a lack of effort. And I coach Dan's team, and I'm a coach, and I'm considered the mean coach, and I will probably always be the mean coach. And what I always tell them is,
videos.
I don't expect.
We need videos of Coach Liv. I want videos of Coach Liv. I want to see that.
What I always say to them is I don't expect perfection, but I do expect effort. And what I was seeing as a Broncos fan was Russell Wilson couldn't do his job. He had the stats. He has the best ratio touchdowns to interceptions, but nobody wants to talk about that. We don't want to talk about how he's got better QB stats than Patrick Mahomes this season. The problem is we were putting him in basically he was being set up to fail because people like Holley do expect wins, right? That's what we watch football for. That's what you want as a fan. That's what you want as a watcher of football. But at the end of the day, Russ can't do his job if his teammates aren't showing up. He just can't. So a defense to me that did a mid-season glow up, we automatically saw a switch in the momentum for the Broncos when everybody showed up with the same effort as Russell Wilson. And I got to give my flowers to a guy like Russell Wilson. Is he a cornball? Yes. And I will never say otherwise. He's a goofy cornball, and I love him for it. But one thing that I do want to say is amidst all the media scrutiny, amidst being dragged through the mud, he remained so positive. He never gave up on this Broncos team. He never gave up on this offense. He never gave up on Sean Payton. He has been positive through it all. And now he's finally getting the opportunity to quiet the haters. And I love to see it because he could have been a Zach Wilson post game. I remember this last season where Zach Wilson took no accountability for having a bad game. At the end of the day, whether you were the reason that they lost or not, you are the leader of the team. That's what the quarterback is. They are the leader of the team. And Russell Wilson has maintained positive energy. He has stayed locked in despite a 1-5 start to the season. So not only are we now seeing it click for the Broncos, but this momentum, it's scary to me, the momentum that they've got right now, because to pull yourself out of a 1-5 start and to do what you're doing now is exceptional. So I give my kudos to a Vance Joseph defense now that has turned things around, although I will not apologize to him because dear God, it should never happen. 70 points on a board. That's just insane. But what a turnaround. What a turnaround for this team. Mentally and physically.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to ask you about somebody else in a second. I'm going to ask you about him in just a second, Liv, and I want you to comment on this guy too, Rita. But before we get there, not only do I want those videos of Coach Liv, okay? Not only do I want those videos, I feel like it's like there's something there. Like I remember years ago, Peyton Manning hosted Saturday Night Live, and it was hilarious because he was like trolling the kids, and he was like hitting them with footballs, and he was like, "Don't be a little."
I love that. Yes.
All that. I can imagine Liv, giving great dance tips, but also like kind of scaring the kids a little bit. I bet you scare them.
I do a little. Well, here's the
scare
thing.
them?
How
do you deal with the parents?
Stuff. Let me tell
you.
That's probably worse than the kids.
No, let me tell you, we have I will speak so highly on the group that I have, because I think more than anything, I work alongside 2 other coaches. We have developed a phenomenal culture. And I think that I'm going to speak. I think this is important for any sport, any group of athletes, no matter whether it's dance on a high school level or it's a professional athlete. Culture matters. And I think that as coaches, we've done a really great job of maintaining a positive culture. The dancers know that we don't want to hear from your parents. We want to hear from you. When you're in high school, start advocating for yourself, because at the end of the day, your parents aren't the ones that are in practice every day after school for 3 hours. You are. So if you have a problem with something, we got to hear it from you and not your parents. So I love this team. I just don't sugarcoat stuff. I never have. I never will. Ask Bill's Mafia. They know all about it. I don't sugarcoat a thing. Not with my dance team, not with Bill's Mafia, not with anybody. So
that was so unnecessary.
It was a reminder.
The truth hurts.
Just had to go by and just give him a bop. Just bop him.
I will always do a drive-by smack of Bill's Mafia on this show. Just know that. I will always do a drive-by every single time I'm here.
So I look forward to those videos. I want to see that stuff. But I was going to ask you about it. I said there's a guy I want to ask you about. We talked about Russell Wilson.
Yep.
We talked about Vance Joseph. You're not going to give Vance Joseph credit for something he's supposed to do. Well, how about Sean Payton? Because he came in, highly paid coach. You had to give up draft compensation for him. There's financial compensation for Sean Payton. So how do you look at him at 6? Does he get credit for that? I mean, 6-5. Do you give him credit?
Let me tell you something. I think that it was really easy. Here's what I saw Broncos country doing it everywhere, and rightfully so. We just were looking for someone to blame. Like, how are we in this position? We've spent all of our money. We have no good picks. Our trade options are limited. Like, what do we do? So we were just like grasping at straws to try to blame someone, right? But what I think a lot of people are forgetting to realize with Sean Payton is that he had to not only come in and coach the way he wanted to coach, but he also had to clean up other people's messes. I mean, the Broncos, a lot of times you get a new coach, right? And it's like, okay, this is the one missing piece that we have. There were a lot of things that the Broncos needed to fix from last season to this season. And so I feel like he had to clean up somebody else's mess before he could do what he wanted to do with the Denver Broncos. Okay. And obviously a lot of people would expect you do that in the, preseason. That's where you kind of get the kinks out. But there was a lot to tackle. And I think more importantly, there was a culture that had to be changed. And that does not happen overnight. That to me was the start. And then once the culture got established, you saw all these things and everyone was laughing. He's like, no sunglasses, you better stay in uniform, no visors or bucket hats or whatever he said. And a lot of people were like, well, that's foolish. That was culture. He was building a culture of, I don't play. You're not getting your own office. You don't get to do this, this, and this. He had to fix the culture first. And then, okay, let's get you playing. Let's see what kind of, playing style, how we want to run the offense, what we're going to do with the Vance Joseph defense. And they almost had to learn as they went, which I think is why they got such a slow start. But rightfully so, NFL fans are impatient. We want to win right now. I don't want you to tell me after you're 1-5, oh, we're getting there. Oh, are you kidding me? I'm sick of waiting. So I get it. I get the frustration by fans everywhere. But yes, Sean Payton deserves an insane amount of credit. But I think when you're paid well, when you're compensated well, when Broncos fans know all that was given up for a Sean Payton and a Russell Wilson, the bar is set higher, and it should be. So I think that was probably where the frustrations were coming from.
You agree with that, Rita?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with it. I think we as fans generally want instant gratification, and we want things to happen right then and there. We want our fingers snapped and see, progress. It just doesn't work that way. And the sooner that we realize that, the better off we'll be in understanding processes. If you're changing complete cultures, you don't do that in a week or two. It takes time. Implementing systems takes time. It's something that just does not happen overnight. And I'm guilty of it. With my own team, I'm sure that everyone else is, and so we just got to learn to have a little bit more patience. We just don't, as fans, we just don't understand what that word means, and that's the problem. But luckily for the Broncos, they found a way to finally get things rolling before the season ended, and now they have an opportunity to compete in the playoffs as a result.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.